It's okay. We already told you. Now, please, only question you should ask me. Now, class has been already started. Okay. Now, immunity. 1 minute. Now, uh, what does mean immunity? Or when many times we use word I am immune to full thing, I'm immune to that thing, and all those things means that particular thing where you are immune to that particular thing, those things cannot harm you. So immunity, if you see literally meaning, it is our defense mechanism of our body from any harmful agent which can coming from outside the body. Okay, so immunity we can call it as like a defense mechanism, or sometimes we can call it military or soldier of our body, and prevent our body from the damage to any harmful agent which coming outside our body. Now, how that what are the different parts of the our system or our body which participate in the immunity? So first and most important part of the immunity is barrier. That barrier is like a skin. So skin is one of the best defense mechanism, and it doesn't allow. It is like a protecting wall. पुराने जमाने किले होते थे ना, it is of like a, one of the part of like a killa, wall of that fort. So it is like a protective mechanism, and it doesn't allow any foreign organism to enter in our body and can harm our body. And that advantage is because of presence of dead skin. So the dead skins are very, very resistant for the infection, and they will not get exposed to the infection. It is not like that dead skin will not have any infection. They can have, but they produce a good resistance to the infection, so they will not get infected, and they cannot get easily penetrated by the other microorganism. So this is the first, the physical barrier, which can prevent our body from the infection. Apart from that, other barriers are like mucous membranes. So oral cavity में mucous membrane है, पूरा GI tract में mucous membrane है, respiratory tract में mucous membrane है, conjunctival mucous membrane हो गया है, urinary bladder, urinary tract में mucous membrane है. So all those mucous membranes also form barrier. So these are an example of physical barrier. Apart from these two type of the barrier, there are other things which can prevent infection is like a flushing action, washing action. Like suppose something comes in your eyes, your tear develop, and the tear will wash and it remove it from the eye. So it prevent further damage to the eyes because of that washing action. Similarly, when you micturate, every time water infection comes to the urethra and all those things, they will be flushed out. So flow of the urine itself provide resistance to the infection. So proper flowing of the urine is also, or anything which like a saliva in the oral cavity, because of continuous secretion of the saliva, it will keep on washing our oral cavity, and that will keep on taking out the infection. Actually, it is dilute the viral or bacterial overload at that site and prevent the infection occurring to that site. Apart from this physical barrier, there are chemical barriers. These provide chemical resistance, like a tears which coming in our eyes. Uh, these tears has a antimicrobial action. Then there are various chemicals which prevent the growth of the microorganism. Then there are sometimes unfavorable pH for the growth of the microorganism and prevent the infection. Similarly, the oral cavity, you get a saliva. That saliva also contain various bactericidal enzymes, and they also contain the various antibodies, and those chemicals will prevent uh, occurring of the infection to the our body. So suppose there is no tear, then it will cause xerophthalmia, dryness of the eyes, and your eyes will get more prone for the infection. Similarly, if there is a reduced salivary secretion, that will again cause the dryness of the mouth, and that will create chances of increased infection in oral cavity, and that is called xerostomia. The next barrier will come to like a acid secretion in the stomach. It is having so low pH, almost all microbes will get killed in that such a high acidic environment, except few bacteria like H. pylori bacteria and all those things, which can survive with such a low pH. Otherwise, all maximum bacteria will get killed, and that will actually causes sterilization of our food. So almost our food will be very less bacterial load. Same thing can happen if there's a decreased acid secretion, like in atrophic gastritis, then it can increase chances of the stomach infection or gastrointestinal infection because of increased bile. Yeah, bile and pancreatic juice also act as a antibacterial action because of their proteolytic enzymes. Bile has a very salt which has a bactericidal effect that will prevent the growth of the microorganism, or they will promote the growth of the favorable microorganism. That is called commensal bacterial growth. So that also forms one of the type of the barriers. Similarly, urine has a low pH that prevents the growth of the bacteria. Vagina has a high acidic pH that prevents the growth of the bacteria. So this is how the various barrier mechanism which prevent the growth of the bacteria. So this is the first way of the mechanism to prevent our body to get infected. So this is the first defense mechanism, that is barrier. Suppose somehow the bacteria are able to breach that barrier and enter in our body. Then first defense mechanism which comes is a mononuclear phagocytic system. This was previously also called as a reticuloendothelial system. This forms the group of the cells, large cell that is monocytes, and which goes into the tissue and become macrophages. So these are a part of the tissue blood monocytes and tissue macrophages together will form mononuclear phagocytic system. And since they have a professional phagocytic cells, that's why they are called phagocytic cells. These macrophages which present into the tissue can survive in the tissue for years, and they will keep on roaming into the tissue like a patrolling police. So they'll keep on roaming, and whenever you'll find any suspected foreign bodies or foreign organism, they'll go close to that suspected foreign body organism, inspect it, and if they find there is any suspicious and need to take action, they will try to phagocytosis and try to kill it. So this is what first defense mechanism, first line of the defense mechanism is mononuclear phagocytic cell. Now, these are the examples of various parts which forms the macrophage, and they named depend upon the different tissues there, but they all are the part of the macrophage. So in brain, the macrophage cells are called microglial cells. So these are like brain phagocytic cells. Then in pulmonary alveolar macrophages, also present in the lungs, that called the tissue macrophages, are also called as histiocytes. They're usually present in the connective tissues and skin. Then macrophages present in the liver are called Kupffer cells. Then osteoclasts are also example of macrophages which are present in the bone. Then macrophages present in the lymph nodes. Then macrophages also present in the spleen. And then glomerular mesangial cells which are present in the kidney. So these are different type of the macrophages. You don't need to remember all those things, but sometimes you might get question with the specific macrophages. Kupffer cells are found in. So now we are not expecting this type of the question in next, but we don't know what can come. Yes, Omkar. Omkar. Anjali, we're expecting there are more questions will come like more clinical questions. So we are not expecting a single liner question like tissue macrophage present in which organ. We are not expecting, Cooper cell present in which organ. You will not get question like this. What we are expecting this time, because what their intention of having next and all those things. So their intention is that to produce more competent doctor, more skilled doctor. And for that, they want to uh, have more competent based questions. So there are having more clinical questions will be there. Yes, Priya? You want to ask something?
Yes, sir.
You want to ask something?
No, sir.
Why you raise
I
hand?
did it by mistake, sir.
How this mistake can be repeatedly occurring? Once one student start raising hand, everyone will start raising hand.
Sorry, sir.
If you are doing these things, I will keep on removing everyone. Those who are raising hand, if they don't speak, then I will remove them. So these macrophages will wander in this particular tissues and try to remove the dead tissues also from there, and debris also from there. And if foreign particle also coming, that foreign particle will also be removed from this. So monocytes inside the blood and macrophages inside the tissue will together form mononuclear phagocytic system. Now, what are these how it functions? So it is like a first system which responds to infection. So whenever there's any foreign body or foreign organism will come, they will reach there and try to kill. So it is a first defense mechanism which develop against any invading microorganism. Apart from the uh, defense mechanism for any other foreign body, they also keep on removing the dead tissues which are normally occurring either because of necrosis or because of apoptosis, dead bacteria, then broken RBCs, broken platelets, broken WBCs, and fibrins that will keep on removing from the body or from at the site of the uh, inflammation, and they will promote the healing. And this is one of the important functions phagocytes perform during inflammation and healing. Then in defense, they start phagocytizing the bacteria or foreign organism and try to kill them. If they will not able to kill them, they will initiate the immune response by releasing the cytokines and brings the more immune cell. So it initiates the inflammatory actions and try to bring it. So then they also present as a stimulation of the immune system. So they ingest the specific antigens present on the surface of the uh, um, bacteria, and they digest it, and those antigen will be present on the surface of the phagocytic cell along with the MHC complex, and that help to initiate the immune response. Apart from this, they also try to remove the antigen antibody complex water form that efficiently phagocytose by the mononuclear phagocytic system. The removal of the RBCs from the spleen or any other dead tissue, that can also be done. Then removal of the old WBC and platelet also will be done by this, and also act as a storage function. This stores the excess lipid and mucoprotein and provide whenever it is required, is specifically during healing and inflammation. Then come to the lymphoid organs, which is forms the site of the immune system where actually immune system develop, stored, and regulated. So there are two type of the lymphoid organ we can classify. One is central or primary, and second is peripheral or secondary. So central is where the these lymphoid organs develop their skill or educated or trained. And those organs like a thymus, which present just posterior to the sternum, upper portion of the sternum, the thymus gland. In that, the lymphoid T cells has been developed and they stored also. And then bursa equivalent, जो bursa fabricus के equivalent जो अपने body में है, the bursa fabricus is found in the birds. So it is equivalent to bursa fabricus. These are like a fetal liver जहाँ पे cells develop होती है and trained also, and also bone marrow, red bone marrow. So these are like a bursa equivalent central lymphoid organ. Once the lymphocytes synthesize, develop, trained, and then they goes to the peripheral organ and they will store themselves and remain themselves for the lifetime. And they will, whenever the requirement is there, they'll come out into the blood, shows their action, and again they will go back and settle into the peripheral organ. And these organs are various lymph nodes. So there are many group of the lymph nodes like temporalis, cervical, aortic, post-aortic, iliac, inguinal, popliteal, axillaries. So there are many group of the lymph nodes which are present in our body, and they stored not only B cells but also T cells, matured B cell and T cells there, and they will remain there, and they will usually restrict themselves for that local area. Like axillary will drain it from the upper limb, while iliac will drain it from the inguinal will drain it from the lower limb, or abdominal periaortic lymph nodes will drain the limbs from the abdominal cavity or peritoneum. So they restrict their cell area, and they will take the lymph and lymph nodes from that local area, and whenever the infection inflammation occur, they increase their size and develop themselves and start producing more and more cells and start reacting to the infection. The second organ is spleen. Spleen is a work as a primary organ in intrauterine life and also after extrauterine life. It will work as a secondary lymphoid organ. A lot of lymphoid tissues are present in the spleen, and they will remain there for lifetime. And whenever the requirement is there, they will come out and shows their action. Then there are special type of the lymphoid tissues. These are not actually very localized, but they are spread in throughout the mucous membrane, specifically GI mucous membrane, and these are called MALT, mucosa associated lymphoid tissues. So these are group of the lymphoid tissues present in the MALT, and these tissues you'll come to know in pathology, especially when they get infected with tuberculosis and typhoid. These both will get infected and they will show reaction in this MALT tissue. And ulceration occur at that time where the MALT tissue is there, and they usually provide the surface immunity which are entering into the body. Now come to the primary organ or central organ, thymus. Thymus is the gland which is located in the mediastinum, posterior to sternum, just above the heart. It is a lobulated structure. It contains many lobules, and each lobule is divided into cortex and medulla. There are epithelial cells, which is forms the network in thymus. They are called thymocytes, and also with the macrophages. So these are present, and they will form a network. Thymocytes are like immature lymphocytes, which predominantly present in the cortex, while mature lymphocytes will present in the medulla. And these lymphocytes are produced into thymus are called T lymphocytes, or simply we usually refer as a T cell. So आगे से हम जब भी T cell बोलेंगे, so we are referring to the T lymphocytes. So thymus actually it is not produced, but it is a trained, educated, and they call selection of the qualified T lymphocytes, and those lymphocytes are called T lymphocytes. The thymus involved in or T lymphocytes or T cells are involved mainly into cell-mediated acquired immunity. So these are usually thymus educate the T lymphocytes. So how that the educations occur? They will expose all these T cells to the different antigens in our body and tell them that this is self antigen, and you are not supposed to react to those self antigen. And T cell which react to self antigen will be destroyed by the thymus macrophages, and only cells which doesn't react will remain into the thymus. Once they develop, train into the thymus, then these lymphocytes will migrate from the thymus and goes to the peripheral lymphoid organ, and they usually attend themselves into the paracortical area in the peripheral lymphoid node, lymph nodes. And also in the spleen, they usually attend in a white pulp. Okay, and that's why these areas in the spleen are also called a thymus dependent area. Then come to the bursa equivalent. These are bursa avian bursa fabricus. These are usually bursa present in the bud where the these B lymphocytes develop. But equivalent to that, we don't contain that bursa fabricus in human body. So similar site which shows the development of the B lymphocytes are seen in the bone marrow and fetal liver, where the B lymphocytes train, develop or educated. Similarly, like a T lymphocyte educated, this B lymphocytes are also exposed to the self antigens, and lymphocytes which react to the self antigens will be eliminated, and lymphocyte which doesn't react will be trained and send it back to the blood, and from blood it goes to the peripheral lymph node, and they usually attend to the medullary cords in the lymph nodes and also in the cortex into the germinal follicles, while in the spleen they form the lymphoid follicles. So that is called thymus independent areas present in the lymph node. Then these B lymphocytes usually involved in antibody mediated acquired immunity, or also called as humoral acquired immunity. Then come to the structure of the peripheral lymph nodes. You will learn this more in detail in anatomy. So just I'll briefly introduce. So these are like a bean-shaped lymph node which has a capsule which receives the vessels from the other side, that is called afferent vessels, and there will be efferent lymphatic vessels. Apart from this, it also receives the both arteries and brain, where the lots of blood will keep on going and draining there, and portion of this capsule will be divided into cortex, paracortex, and medulla. The cortex is usually contain B lymphocytes or thymus independent area where the more of the B lymphocytes will be there, while paracortex are usually contain T lymphocytes, and medulla again contain B lymphocytes. So whenever there is a area will come stimulated, the particular area will respond and start developing that particular type of the lymphocytes whenever the immunity will occur. And these are like a germinal cell which keep on helps to produce a more and more T lymphocytes which are present into the B lymphocytes. And these are also called as a primary lymphoid follicles. Now, what is the function of these lymph nodes? And the afferent lymphatic vessel, efferent lymphatic vessels, what does this does? So afferent lymphatic vessels will cover the local area. And if you remember the osmotic pressure and little bit theory about the edema, which we discussed in plasma proteins. So normally what happens, fluid will come out of the blood from the arterial end, and when it drained back, it goes back to the venous side and it almost completely absorbed. But some fluid will remain into the tissue. The remaining fluid will be taken up by this afferent lymphatic vessels. So there are all every time there are pumping action, that pumping action will create suction, negative pressure inside the lymphatics, and that will keep on draining that large drop of the extracellular fluid, which is remain into the tissue from the blood, and that will be taken up back. While taking up back, they will also take the extra protein, whatever the present of any microorganism, all those things. Those all things will come together, and this is called lymph. Once that lymph comes, and they will come to the lymph nodes, and where they get processed, analyzed if any antibodies and if any bacterial action or anything will be there, they will get neutralized or killed or phagocytosed, and then a true form of the lymphatics or pure lymphatics will be come out of the efferent vessels, and it goes to the lymphatic drainage system, that is a thoracic duct, and finally it drain into the anterior jugular vein. So this is how this lymph node work here. Then come to the structure of the spleen. Spleen is also made up of the connective tissues, and it has a very tough fibrous capsule which divide the spleen into various compartments, small lobules, and it has a reach in the blood supply. And if you see there are direct bursa dependent means the site which contain more of the B lymphocytes, and bursa independent means site which contain more of the T lymphocytes. This is called red bulb, which contain huge number of the thin-walled capillaries, and more number of the blood vessels that has a high blood supply. That's why it gives reddish discoloration. That's why it is called red pulp. And at the side by side, this has a venous supply, which has a veins are not continuous and they are has a big fenestration, and through which they're connected. These are called sinusoids. So veins which has a big fenestration and it doesn't produce any margin. So these are called sinusoids. The sinusoids will form red pulp and the central portion will form white pulp. In this white pulp, it is more of the B lymphocytes will be there. So it is a like a B dependent area or T independent area. And while this sinusoids is usually contain red pulp, which usually contain T lymphocytes or T cells, and that is usually T or thymus dependent area of the spleen. Spleen also receives the blood from almost all body and also blood from the GI tract, and try to analyze the situation, and any infection, anything will be filtered into the spleen and try to phagocytose by the various monocytes. So how the spleen work or function of the spleen? So spleen can form the site for the activation of the both T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes, and can increase the production of the antibodies. Yes, Yash Gauri. Yash Gauri.
Sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Sir, you told that many of the regions are T dependent. Then what effect do we see on them when the thymus degenerates after puberty?
But there
Where
is
do
no
they
effect on
manifest?
the T dependent, because cells has been already developed and they will remain at the T dependent areas. So that area will be normal. It's not dependent on thymus. कि thymus grow होगा तो area grow होगा, thymus कम होगा तो area कम होगा. It is not like that. It is T dependent area, means whatever activity occurring in the thymus, similar activity will occur there, and they will continue the legacy of the thymus. That is cell mediated immunity.
Achha. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Welcome. So they are able to produce both, activate the T lymphocytes and B lymphocyte, increase the production of the T lymphocyte and B lymphocyte, and also it can increase the production of antibody. Then it is one of the good filtering agent or garbage disposable agent. So what are old RBCs, WBC platelets present in the blood will be filtered out in the spleen and removed by the spleen. Then spleen in intrauterine life also forms the site for the hematopoiesis, and increase all RBC, WBC and platelet production can be done at the level of the spleen. Second thing, spleen also plays very important role in iron metabolism. The phagocytoses the RBC and removes the iron from the hemoglobin and recycle that iron to form the fresh hemoglobin. So it prevents the loss of the iron from the body and helps in a very good recycling of the iron. Then spleen not only act as a site of the destruction, but also act as a site of storage. And this stores the huge number of the RBCs. And whenever we'll need RBC, that time there is splenic contraction that RBC will release into the blood. Like whenever you get a sympathetic activity, like a stress and high temperature, low temperature, or you're about to do exercise, that time the splenic contraction will be there and that RBC will remove into the body. Similar way, it shows a more exaggerated way in the lower animals. हमारे इसमें कुछ लेवल हद तक होता है, but in lower animals, it actually acts as a reservoir. And apart from this, spleen also plays a very good, important role in regulation of the portal circulation of the GI system. So how it regulates the portal circulation? So spleen act as a buffering system. So whenever there is increased blood pressure in the portal circulation, the extra blood will go to the spleen and it will try to decrease the blood pressure. And whenever there is lower blood pressure, then that extra blood will come back into the central pool, and again it will try to maintain the blood pressure. So whenever the extra load comes out to the liver, the spleen will start enlarging and it will start taking the extra blood pool, and so that it will prevent the damage to the blood vessels in the portal circulation. Because of this, whenever this is occurring, increase size of the liver because of increased portal blood pressure, that is called portal hypertension. That time it will not increase only spleen or liver, but also along with the liver, spleen will also get increased because it will backflow to the spleen, and spleen will try to accommodate more and more blood. Now come to the mild tissues, or also called as mucosa-associated lymphoid tissues. These are like a small group of the lymphoid tissues present in the GI tract. They started with the oral cavity. So tonsils, we had a ring of the tonsils. हमको दो ही पता है यहाँ पे, but there's a ring of the tonsils in oropharynx, and that act as a first guard when you enter of the entry point. Apart from this, the nasopharynx also has a tonsils, and it is referred as a adenoid. So nasal tonsils, which is referred as adenoid. So all together they forms a guard in the oral pharynx. So whenever infection occur in the oropharynx, these are the tissues which respond first and try to kill those infection. Then if you go to the small intestine, there are a group of the lymphoid organs in the patches throughout the layer of the small intestine will be present, and those are called Peyer's patches. And they also provide infection into, they also provide immunity for the surface infection. Out of this, if you see the structure of this Peyer patches or lymphoid tissues, they usually contain both B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes. So B lymphocytes is the central portion, while T lymphocytes are in the more of the periphery, and they can provide the immunity, both cell-mediated and humoral acquired type of the immunity. Now come to the proper immunity. Okay, before starting this immunity, can we take 5 minutes break? Okay, now we'll start a proper immunity. Immunity, if we want to classify, we can classify into various ways. So this is one of the common way which we can classify. So first part is innate immunity, which is usually present at the birth, and it doesn't require any stimulus or anything. By default, it is present in our body. And second type of the immunity is acquired, or also called as adaptive type, which slowly progress after birth and sorry, and it's developed after the birth whenever they stimulate to the different systems in our body. That is called acquired immunity. So innate immunity is like one, they're very non-specific. Basic feature of the acquired immunity is a non-specific. They had a resistance to the all type of the pathogens, and which we already discussed in the first class, like barrier method and other things. Second thing, they had against the specific antigens. I don't know why I written this, but I rarely see any innate immunity that has a high specificity for the particular antigens. Okay. Then come to the acquired immunity. The specificity is the one of the feature of the acquired immunity. They are specific for the particular antigen, and it can be both active and passive. Active means when they are stimulated actively to our immune system, and then immune system arouse, and they create antibodies, or they create a cell-mediated toxicity, and then they act on that particular individual that cause active. So our immunity will be stimulated, and now once immunity is stimulated, they will remember it for the lifetime as a memory cell, and then again act whenever there is a new infection occur with the same antigen. Then again they will react more promptly and more aggressively. So in active immunity, there are two types, like a natural and artificial. Natural, whenever the natural infection occurring, like if you have jaro, corona ho raha aapko, and then you get immune. That is one of the example of natural immunity, where infection occurs, then you recover from that infection. Now your body is sensitized with the particular antigens of the coronavirus. Artificial immunity of active immunity, we artificially introduce a antigen in our body that may not cause a disease to you, or we may call very, very mild type of the disease, but that can provide a protection or immunity against much severe disease. Like example, we are taking corona vaccinations. In that, we'll give the whole dead cell vaccine or some component of the antigens of the particular vaccines, and try to produce the immune response in our body, and now your body get immunized. So now if you get a natural infection, your body will require more promptly. If first time infection occur, then it will take at least 7 to 10 days to develop the immunity and then react. But once your body is sensitized, then within 1 or 2 days, our body will react and start producing high amount of the antigen antibodies or cell-mediated immunity and try to kill that bacteria. So it will not allow the infection to grow in our body and remove infection from our body. Second type of the acquired immunity is a passive type of the acquired immunity, where our immune system is not getting stimulated, or it not getting sensitized, but the ready-made antibodies is provided to our body. And in this, what happens, the antibodies will be provided that will remove whenever the infection occurs, but it will not produce a long-term effect. So memories will not be developed, and it will not, like subsequent infection occur. Then again, we have to provide with the passive immunity from outside. So our body will not get become active in these conditions, and it will not actually produce the antibodies. So example of passive immunity, it can be also natural or artificial. Natural, when in intrauterine life, we are getting the IgG type of the antibodies directly from the placenta into the fetal circulation. And these IgG type of the antibodies. Yes, Dhanush. कुछ पूछना है? धनुष? Maternal. Similarly, you will get antibodies from the they're usually synonymous. Immunization and vaccinations usually used synonymously, but immunization means our body get immune, whether it can be natural or artificial. Vaccination means once we introduce that antigen in your body through the vaccine. Natural क्या है madam? Naturally active immunity or passive immunity. So in natural passive immunity, you will get it from the mother. During intrauterine life, IgG antibodies will come to your within your body, and it will remain in your body for next 1 to 2 months inside your body, and will provide it's up to 6 months. It will present in your body, and it will provide immunity to our body for the any infection naturally occurring, which has occurred in maternal time. Mother को जो infection हो गया, वो सारे infection से और you get immune for that naturally occurring infection. Apart from this, when you are breastfeeding, also that time also you get various IgA type of the antibodies, and those IgA type of the antibodies will form coating on the GI tract. coating of the GI tract and provide the temporary artificial immunity against any naturally occurring infection. Okay, then come to the artificial immunity. These we usually provide when we don't want to give body, we don't want to expose the body for any particular type of toxin or particular type of the infection. And what we'll do, we'll give them a naturally produce antibodies from the some other source. Like we can take it is with the horse serum or sometimes human serum, like a plasma therapy we used to do in the corona. That is one of the example of artificial immunity. Plasma antibodies होते हैं, and those antibodies will react to the coronavirus for the other individuals. So जो already patients को corona हो चुका है, we'll take a plasma from that patient, and those plasma will transfer it to the individual which got infected with the corona. This is one of the example of artificial immunity. Similar type of the artificial immunity will provide with us some toxins like tetanus anti-sera we can give. Then anti-snake venom is one of the good example of the artificial immunity, and it is life-saving. So when you will get a poisonous snake bite, we don't wait and we don't waste our time to calculate उसको कौन सा poison हुआ होगा, उसके अंदर कौन सा venom होगा. We had a already developed anti-sera by giving all type of these snake venom to the horse in very small doses, and that will create the antibodies against that particular all the type of snake venom, and that anti-sera will give to that individual, and these antibodies will react with the snake venom and try to neutralize the snake venom and try to remove the snake venom from the body. So this is one of the very good example of the artificial immunity. Disadvantage of artificial immunity is, or passive immunity is, they are very short term, while active immunity is a long term. Okay, then come to the part of the innate immunity. As it is present in the inborn and opposed to the resistance to all type of the pathogens and toxins. These are evolutionary also older way of the immune system. So lower animal there is a usually they had only innate type of immunity. As the become more and more complex, we start developing the acquired immunity. So there are specific against particular antigen and non-specific. There are two type of the immunity. First and most important, mechanical barrier, which we already discussed. The presence of the intact skin and mucosa on the body will provide the mechanical barrier. Then chemical barrier will provide by the various secretions like a sweat, tears, salivary, secretion of the GI tract, urine formation. All these will provide the flushing action and try to remove the microorganism, or they contain a various enzymes which can kill the microorganism or antibactericidal action they had, or they had sometimes antibodies also, and they can neutralize the microorganism and try to remove the microorganism from the site. Then humoral innate mechanism, like humoral means chemical, or the little word of humoral is like a liquid. So it is like a lysozymes present in the various fluids like sweat gland, cerebrospinal, or urine. The mucolytic enzymes are present in the various fluids, and they can split the mucopeptide and try to disturb the cell wall of the microorganism and try to kill them. Then some basic polypeptides, usually you'll see this in very good effect on parasites, and where they try to kill those bacteria by directly linking them with the leucine or arginine or leucine type of the proteins and try to kill them. Then complement system is a very effective innate part of the immune system, and they had a similar action like that of the antigen antibody complex. But it is a very non-specific, and they can directly punch the hole into the cell membrane of the bacteria and can kill the bacteria, or they can neutralize the various toxins, or they can even form the opsin against the bacteria and try to increase the phagocytosis. Then interferons, they are good antiviral substances which try to neutralize the viruses which we get stimulated. Antibodies are not the part of the artificial immunity. Antibodies is totally different from the immune system. Okay. Then come to the cellular mechanisms. Here where cell directly involved in the innate immunity. One is phagocytic cells like neutrophils and mononuclear macrophage system. These are very good phagocytic cells, try to kill the microorganism and also forms the first line of the defense mechanism. The natural killer cell, it is like a special type of the lymphocytes, which has a very non-specific defense mechanism. They are very good effectively on the viral infected cells, tumor cells, and other cells, and they try to kill the microorganism. Then eosinophils will usually act against the parasites. Then come to the acquired immunity, and here we'll talk about active immunity. So acquired immunity can be natural, which clinical infection or subclinical infection can generate the natural acquired immunity. Artificially, you can give it with the vaccines, and there can be different type of the vaccines. Whole bacteria vaccines like BCG, that is live vaccine, or typhoid vaccine, which is a kill type of the whole bacterial vaccine. Then fragment of the bacteria, or product of the bacteria, like tetanus toxoids. Here, we'll take a tetanus toxins and we modify it and reduce its toxicity, but it will remain its antigenicity. Similarly, diphtheria toxoids, they also reduce their toxicity and remain their antigenicity. And this bacterial product will be there. Now, the problem with the bacterial products is that it doesn't prevent the infection, but it prevents the disease. Like a tetanus toxoid का injection ले लिया आपने, your body get sensitized and will start putting antibody against the tetanus toxins. So जब आपको Clostridium tetani infection हो जाएगा, so that infection will not stop. But the problem occur with the Clostridium tetani, bacteria itself will not have any pathogenicity, but it releases the toxin that is called tetanus toxin, and that can affect our body and it can be life-threatening. So the water toxin released by the Clostridium tetani will be neutralized by the antibodies which already produced. Similarly, with the diphtheриal toxins, that also will be neutralized. Then come to the viral type of vaccines like live vaccine, polio vaccines, oral drop, which we are taking, or MMR vaccines, which is for measles, mumps, and rubella. And kill type of vaccine is like a polio vaccine, which will be injectable polio vaccine, or also vaccines for the rabies. These are an example of the kill type of the vaccine. Then come to the passive immunity, which we already discussed. We'll get a natural passive immunity. Yes, Kajol. Yes, Kajol. Natural IgG antibodies can transfer to the placenta, so it will goes from the mother to the fetus and provide immunity even after birth. Then it also get a various various immunoglobulins through the milk, breast milk, and that will provide infection to the mucosal infection to the GI tract. Then come to the example of artificial passagemen that is given hyperimmune, antiserum, all those things. These are examples of passive immunity. Just a 5 minutes break. So this is a difference between active immunity and passive immunity. Active immunity antibodies already produced and it is stimulated with antigens, and antibodies produced by the our own immune system in response to either naturally or artificially given. While in passive immunity, we'll already give ready-made prepared antibodies. It can be natural or artificial also. Then there is a lag phase or negative phase from entry of the infection till it develop the immunity, and that will give a little bit more time. So, and here there is no lag phase or no negative phase. as soon as you administer the antibodies, it will show the response. Then there is this latent period, which is somewhere around 4 days to 4 weeks occur in artificial immunity. So there is no latent period. So immunity will be immediately effective. Then there is a secondary response, as it produces immunological memory. And when you get a secondary stimulus, that is secondary stimulus, secondary shows better response than the first stimulus. And we need a more bacterial dose to produce infection in the individual which has already immunity. While passive immunity doesn't have any immunological memory, so there is no secondary response in the passive immunity. Durations, the normally active immunity will stay for long lasting, and some is for lifetime, like infection for immunity for the smallpox, chickenpox, or immunity for the herpes infection that will stay for the long life. Well, passive immunity is really for the only short term. जब तक body के अंदर antibodies है, तब तक immunity होती है. As soon as the antibodies are removed from the body, that immunity will be lost. Active immunity is more effective, provide better protection. Passive immunity is less effective and inferior. And in activity, in immune deficient individual, it doesn't show that much effective. Well, passive immunity is very much effective in immune deficient individuals. So this is a difference between active immunity and passive immunity. Then come to the antigen. So lots of words came antigen many times when we are discussing both classification of active and passive immunity and all those things. So what is meant by antigen? Antigen is any type of the substance which can initiate or stimulate the immune response in the body. So any substance, it can be anything that if produce any reactions in our body, specifically immune reaction, then we call it the antigen. So to describe the antigen, there are various terms, like one is immunogenicity. It is the ability to initiate the stimulus or initiate the response. That is called immunogenicity. Second is antigen specificity. So usually antigens are different groups. It can be a polysaccharide, it can be a glycoprotein, it can be a protein, or it can be lipoprotein or phospholipids. And these has a lot of variations, and they're very specific to initiate the immune response. So once the immune response is developed, so that antibodies can act specifically to a particular immune. So this is called antigen specificity. But sometimes a different group of the antigens can initiate a similar type of the response. Like example, smallpox virus. So smallpox infection हमारे body में होता है, and that creates the immune response. Similarly, we had another infection that is called chickenpox infection. So if you develop chickenpox infection, which is a milder type of the infection, then you get immune for the smallpox infection. So this is like a immune response shared by the antigen specificity for the similar antigen. Then there are very like a specific specificity of the antigen. Some antigens initiate the immune response to particular species, while they cannot generate the immune response to the other species. So this is called specificity. So particular antigen will be, and then isospecificity, like similar antigens can found in the different members can generate different type of the response. The best example of iso antigens are ABO group of type of antigens, where different types of antigens which can initiate the similar type of the response. So this is an example of the iso antigens. Then similar example Rh positive antigens. Then another common word we use is MSC antigen, or also called as HLA, human leukocyte antigen. So and this is a nowadays very commonly used antigen. Previously, we thought that it is only present on leukocytes. That's why it is named as a HLA, human leukocyte antigen. But later we found that almost each and every cells in our body will show that specific antigen, and this is very specific for the individual to individual. ऐसा नहीं कि हम सारे ह्यूमंस है तो हमारे अंदर एक ही MSC antigen है. So individual to individual MSC antigen will be whereas only in identical twin we have a similar type of the MSC antigen. These MSC antigens has a gene which is located on the chromosome 6. So remember this, they're located on the short arm of the chromosome 6, and that will give the antigen. It is first as it is found in the leukocyte, so many times we call it as the HL antigen, human leukocyte associated antigen. So there are three subclass of the MSC antigen: the class 1, class 2, and class 3. Out of this, class 1 is usually found in almost all cells in the body except RBCs. RBC doesn't show any type of the MSC antigen. So remember this. So class 1 is present in almost all type of the cells in the body except RBC. MCQ जा सकता है इस पे. Then come to the class 2 antigen. So MSC class 2 antigen are only found in immunogenic cells like B lymphocyte, macrophage, monocytes, and T lymphocytes. So this class 2 are usually only present in immune cells. And this class 3 is usually present a complement component, which is increase the production of the complement proteins, and also property factors, the alternative pathway complement system, both classical pathway complement components and also alternative pathway complement components. All these are produced by the class 3 gene. So here we can what is important is class 1 and class 2 gene. So class 1 is present on the cell, and they're usually associated with the CD4 receptor. And class 2 is present only on the immune cells, and they are usually associated with the CD8 cells. So whenever there is a antigen antibody complex reaction has to occur, or cell has to identify the antigen antibody complex, so they cannot identify the antigen individually. So they has to engulf by the phagocytic cells, and phagocytic cell along with the class 2 antigen, they'll present this antigen to the immune cell, like usually CD4 cell or CD8 cell, and then CD4 or CD8 cell will recognize those antigen along with the class 2 MSC molecule, and then it initiate the immune response. Then come to the antigen antibody complex. Antibodies are the chemicals or proteins which secreted by the B cells and can react with the antigens. And these are nothing but the immunoglobulins. These are why they are called immunoglobulins, because they form the globulin part, and since they are participating in the immune system, that's why they are named as immunoglobulins. In short form, they are written like IG, stand for immunoglobulin. Okay, and if you see the various type of the antibodies, so there are almost 5 type of the antibodies we find in our body, and start with the major component is IgG, then IgA, IgM, IgD, and IgE. IgG is usually a monomer, so there's only one type of the immunoglobulin chain which contain 2 heavy chains and 4 light chains. So these 2 heavy chains are the either it can be gamma 1, gamma 2, gamma 3, or gamma 4, and light chains can be kappa or lambda. Then it has a molecule as monomer. It has a molecule somewhere around 150 kDa, and it does contain carbohydrate, but at a very low component, and its syrup concentration somewhere around 12 nanogram per ml, and it is a half-life somewhere around 21 days. So it will remain up to 50% in our body up to 21 days, and it will take almost 3 to 4 months to remove from our body. So it is one of the long-lasting antibodies which present in our body, and these antibodies also seen in the various fluid secretions like saliva, GI tract, secretion of the respiratory tract, sweat secretion, all those, and tears, all those you can see in this secretion also. These type of the antibodies. These antibodies can transport to the placenta, and so it provides the passive immunity to the fetus also, and they are very heat stable component, and it shows a very stable reaction. Then come to the IgA type of the antibodies. This is also called as surface immunoglobulins, as this is usually present in the mucosal layer, and it can be in the form of the monomer, or it can be in the form of the dimer, and this monomer dimer usually attach each other to the either J protein or SC protein. Molecular weight will ranging from the 160 to 380 decay, and these also present usually in the surface secretions, and they cannot transport to the placenta, and they are also heat stable. Then come to IgM. It is one of the major antigen. Sorry, 1 minute. It is one of the major antigen. Pentamer, it is one of the biggest, and it has a mu type of the heavy chain and small chain kappa or lambda, and it attach all the 5 chains each other through the J protein, and it's one of the heaviest molecule, that is somewhere 900 molecular weight, and its half-life is very short, small. It's stay only for the 5 days, and it is also heat stable, and it follows the classical pathway, and it cannot transfer the placenta. Then IgT, IgE is also similar like that of the IgG type of the body, but they doesn't present in the secretions, and they're usually involving different reaction. IgT usually act as like a receptors for the bacteria, and IgE is usually in the hypersensitivity reaction. Now, when we are trying to see the structure of the immunoglobulins, we usually describe it in the form of IgG type of the IgG I have described because it is one of the highest concentrated immunoglobulin and abundantly found. So it is made up of the 2 heavy chain and 2 light chain. So heavy chain, this is the heavy chain portion, and these are the 2 light chain, and these all chains are attached to each other through the sulfate bond. So these are the sulfate bond. Out of this, the tail portion of the heavy chain is one of the constant portion, so it doesn't show any variations, and these are usually carboxy terminals, while the head end which usually has a lots of variations. So whatever the antigen specificity and all those things will occur because of the variations in the light chain and T chain. So similarly, if you see the type of the heavy chains in different immunoglobulins, so IgA has alpha type of the chain, IgT has a delta, Ig has a epsilon, while Ig is a gamma type of the chain, and IgM has a mu type of the heavy chain. Light chain are usually same, either it can be kappa or lambda. Out of this, if you divide the depend upon the variations, so these 3 portion of the heavy chain, CH1, CH2, and CH3 are the constant portion. There doesn't show any variations. Variations only in the amino terminals, and that is usually called variable chain of the heavy part. So they referred as a VH. While a small chain, usually peripheral portion has a more variations, and portion towards the carboxy, which has a no variation of the less portion. So that is a constant. So these 2 portions are the variable. But in total, if you consider whole immunoglobulin, the upper portion is usually called a variable zone, a lower portion is usually called as a constant zone. If you see how that variable zone varies, so variable zones there, they are present almost 4 loops, which combine to each other to sulfase bond, and that shows the various variation. Here also there is a 4 loop will be there in the heavy chain, and that shows the various variable loops. Then if you come to light chain, which has a lower molecular weight, it can be of 2 types. Either it can be kappa type or lambda type. And if you see the concentration of the both kappa and lambda, so kappa has a major ratio, and it's almost a 2:1 ratio in the human serum. Similar to the heavy chain, this amino terminal which has a more variable region, while carboxy terminal has a more constant region. Then come to the functions of the immunoglobulin. Okay. So IgG present in almost blood and all type of the fluids, and they can react to the any antigen and can neutralize this antigen or kill the antigen or can cause immobilization of the antigen and provide the immunity to our body. While IgGs are usually only present in the mucosal secretions and provide the surface immunity and can prevent the infection of the any invading bacteria or virus which coming through either GI tract or respiratory tract or urinary tract. IgM is always present in the blood stream and one of the strongest antibodies which can directly kill the cell, can cause cell lysis, can cause agglutination, can punch the hole into the cell and can kill. It has a very strong neutralizing power, can neutralize the various toxins, can cause immobilization. So it is one of the, and is a first immune which respond to the any type of the antigen. So IgG is not the one who come to the first. So first response will come in the form of IgM, and secondary phase response usually come in the form of IgG. Ig is usually involved in type 1 type of the hypersensitivity, and IgD exactly role is not known, but it is involved in immunoglobulins present on the surface of the immune cells. I guess that is too much for the today, and actually I'm not feeling well also. So this next portion will complete in a next session. Okay. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.